Hello everybody, Morgan Freeman ASMR here, back again with another video. Today's video will be a little different than normal. It'll be more of a story time, so bear with me. This story is from my childhood and involves two of my close friends, whose names I will change to Andrew and Greg. Now, Andrew, Greg, and myself were more or less some menace to the neighborhood. We never did anything extremely bad. However, we were known to make quite a ruckus. So this started on a beautiful Saturday in the middle of June. Greg and Andrew and myself had set out to go longboarding like we normally did. Went through a golf course, had a grand old time. And after we'd finished up, Greg had mentioned that he was making homemade flares. Now, us being young and naive, we thought, of course, flares are a great idea, especially homemade by one that is still in middle school. So he went home, grabbed his homemade flares, and brought them over. This was still probably around 1 or 2 p.m. Sun shining bright out. We figured it was too bright to light off the flares and test them out. So, instead, to pass the time, we experimented with some other things. One of those things happened to be, if you've ever heard of it, Works bathroom cleaner, a plastic bottle, and aluminum foil. You pour some Works cleaner into the bottle, place a ball of aluminum foil in it, cover the cap, shake it up, and a few seconds later, boom. Just like dry ice, it expands and eventually explodes. Incredibly loud. Now, ever since then, Works has changed their formula, and it no longer works with them. It's a pun. So, we did that a few times. Lit off a couple of bottles, shook up the neighborhood, but nobody found out it was us. Yet. So, a few hours later, it started to get dark. And then we decided now's the time to light off the flares and test them out, see if they actually work. So Greg brought them out, the shady looking flares, and lit one of them off. To our surprise, the flare worked perfectly fine, and did as any other flare should. A small little jet stream of fire produced some good light, and more importantly, did not explode. So, after we lit off that flare, we lit off the second one and started longboarding around the neighborhood. Now, within our neighborhood, there's the main road, and then there's a back road that leads behind all of the houses and follows a sort of trail along a long tree line. So we longboarded down the tree line with flares in hand, lighting up the night sky until they went out. And once they did, us being young and dumb, we decided, well, they're done. We don't need them anymore. So we tossed them on the ground, right there, behind some random house, and continued on with our night. Eventually, we all got tired and everyone went home, thinking nothing of the events that transpired that day. Now, come the very next morning, Sirens everywhere. I didn't think much of it. There's usually always a siren or two, every once in a while. But this one sounded close. It was within the neighborhood. So I peeked out the window and saw there was a police officer standing just outside of Andrew's house. Now, a little information. Greg didn't live in the same neighborhood. Andrew just lived across the street from me. So the police officer was outside of Andrew's house, chatting with him and his father. His father is not a man to be messed with. He's a very scary individual. And he was clearly pissed off. So, the next thing I see is Andrew pointing towards my house, or where I lived. Then the policeman made his way over, knocked on the door, and I still didn't quite figure out what was going on. I thought it couldn't have been related to what happened last night. Everything we did was innocent. Nobody got hurt. So, went downstairs, opened up the door, and there was the officer. He spoke to me and asked what I was doing last night. And I said I was just hanging out with a couple of friends. Well, he explained what had happened was a few residents in the neighborhood heard some explosions. Hence, the works bottles that we mixed together with aluminum foil. And then, they found the flares. They didn't know they were flares. Residents of the neighborhood assumed those flares were pipe bombs and associated the explosions with those so-called pipe bombs. And the bomb squad was there. So instantly my heart sank. I was thinking, oh dear Lord. Oh no, what have we done? So I was informed to contact my buddy Greg and have him come over here so the officer can have a little conversation with us. So I did as I was told. Called Greg and told him, get over here now. Once he arrived, we had the ass chewing of a lifetime from both Andrew's father and the police officer and the bomb squad. We were on the verge of each being arrested for potential terroristic acts. But Greg, attempting to be the hero, tried to explain that those were not pipe bombs, they were simply flares. We had left our garbage on the ground. Now, this part gets just a little confusing, because I very fondly remember the officer asking Greg, you must be good at chemistry. Apparently, Greg misunderstood and thought he had said something else, and proceeded to say no, which confused the officer quite a bit, and myself, and Andrew, and basically everyone who was there. Because here you have a middle schooler, freshman, whatever you want to call it, that had just made a homemade flare, claiming to not be good at chemistry. It concerned quite a few people, but that was cleared up later on. Anyways, all said and done, it was more or less a slap on the wrist and an extreme ass chewing. Nobody was arrested, thank God, and we were all sent home to deal with our respective parents. as they figure this out. Basically, minutes after. I don't know what happened to Andrew. I assume he got another ass chewing. Greg's parents didn't really care at all, and, well, my parents, they care. They cared a lot. Anyways, it's one of those memories you more or less cherish where you get in trouble with your friends. But things turn out okay. Well, that's my story. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. And maybe I'll do more of these. Little story time adventures, take a break from the poems. Once again, thank you very much for listening. Morgan Freeman out.